Hello and welcome to Transfer Talk, and we have some breaking news from Real Madrid involving Casemiro. Yes, we've had some big news in. Carlo Ancelotti has been talking about Casemiro. We've seen this just on Twitter. We've spoken this morning. He wants to try a new challenge, a new opportunity. I understand this. Also, the club does as well. He goes on to talk about negotiations are ongoing, but he has decided to leave Real Madrid. So we're talking here more on Ancelotti, on Casemiro. Because of what he's done for the club and for this team, we need to be respectful of this. There are negotiations between the clubs. He is still a Real Madrid player, but it looks like now he is willing to depart. Wow, so welcome to our panel. They are here and we can speak to all of you around this. Harriet, Pryor, Dave Reed and Flex as well joins us. Huge news coming out in the final few minutes that we've just seen, Dave. And Carlo Ancelotti not afraid to talk about Casemiro.
Yeah, this was a pre-match news conference ahead of Real Madrid's game against Celta Vigo, and undoubtedly the questions were going to come about Casemiro, given the news that we've heard over the last 24 to 48 hours. What we've been reporting was that a deal between Manchester United and Real Madrid was close. It was a €60 million deal plus €10 million in add-ons, so around 50.7 million, with £8.5 million in add-on. United's contract on offer is a 4-year deal with the option of a further deal. It was our understanding that this transfer wouldn't be completed before the Monday night football between Manchester United and Liverpool, because the player needs to have a visa check first before he completes that transfer. So it seems like Carlo Ancelotti has now confirmed that this transfer is going to happen.
As we can see here, he also went on to say, I listen to his desire, I respect him. Negotiations are ongoing for Casemiro. He won't play tomorrow. Flex, this is the biggest indication we have that Casemiro will be a Manchester United player quite soon.
It is. It's nothing official from Manchester United side, but strong, information coming out from Manchester United this morning, and that's followed up by Carlo Ancelotti there, pretty much confirming that he's out of the door at Real Madrid. And look, there are positives to this. Of course, he's a player who is highly decorated. He's a player who's very experienced. He is a winner. There are multiple situations of which he can improve Manchester United. You can see some of his accolades there. 5 Champions Leagues, 3 La Ligas, 1 Copa del Rey, Spanish Super Cup. The list goes on. UEFA Super Cup, Club World Cup. He is a serial winner, and he's been at Real Madrid for a long time. And one of the positives, before we even talk about what sort of impact he will have at Manchester United, is probably the swiftness of it and the respect he holds at Real Madrid for Carlo Ancelotti to not let it be drawn out, not let it be a saga. But I definitely think that has something to do with the fact that they have Tchouaméni there and Camavinga, ready-made replacements for him, so they're in good stead. But Manchester United are getting a player of high stock. I'm
still quite surprised that Real Madrid are willing to let him go. I thought that would be the big question mark. Would Ancelotti be willing to move this player on? And now he's coming out and saying, yes, I understand the player's wishes. It looks like the player is really keen on a move to the Premier League to finish his career there. And it's a really interesting move. I think you mentioned there some of the characteristics he'll bring. That leadership is the key one for me. He's a proven winner. That mentality that he's going to bring to a Manchester United team that really needs it at the moment. They need someone to come in. They need their new signings to be professional, to back up everything that the new manager's trying to do. We've heard Ten Hag coming in, bringing all this discipline, and then the sort of sagas going around the transfer window is undermining that. So someone coming in like this who could bring that professionalism, that leadership, is a really good signing for them.
Flex, how will Manchester United fans react to this potential signing of Casemiro at Manchester United?
Well, there's been a lot going on at the football club, with potential ownership issues and other things happening, and I don't think Manchester United fans will want to lose sight in terms of being blinkered and being fed this signing and almost forgetting about what's been happening in terms of the lack of planning and where we seem to find ourselves. So that's first and foremost. In my personal opinion, I don't think Manchester United fans will be blinded by that. However, in terms of the player and what the player can bring, it's going to be interesting to see how he's deployed, because he's a bit of a destroyer, isn't he? He's a bit of a player who can break up play and give it to players who are more able than him on the ball, more progressive on the ball. Players like Toni Kroos, players like Luka Modric, players like Valverde. Manchester United don't specifically have that at this precise moment. You know, I was told that they're happy that he's, you know, he plays alongside Fred in the national team. So could that be more protection for the likes of Harry Maguire, Lisandro Martinez, or whoever starts at centre back for Manchester United, which we've been crying out for a better balance in there? Maybe that could be what Fred and Casemiro bring, with maybe the likes of Eriksen ahead of that, who's more progressive on the ball, who has more attacking intuition, and is able to find space, and the likes of Bruno. So I kind of see it working in that way, but it is a different profile to what Manchester United have been chasing for the whole summer. So a little bit of eyebrows raised there. High caliber player, but for me on a personal, I think it's going to be intriguing to see how he fits into this system.
Casemiro has trained with his Real Madrid teammates this morning. We have seen that, but there's got to be a good deal for Manchester United and for Real Madrid, Dave, because both parties will be happy with it.
I actually think this is a good deal for both sides, to be honest. Real Madrid get good money for a player who's 30. They have replacements that are ready to take his place. I think Ancelotti's spoken about that today with Camavinga, with Tchouaméni. They've got the new contract for Modric already done. And United get a starter from the current European champions, who's been one of the best defensive midfielders across Europe for the last 6-7 years. So I think when you look at it like that, it's a good deal for both sides. For Casemiro, he's played in some of the vintage Real Madrid teams. He's also played in some of the not-so-vintage Real Madrid teams. So I think he's had experience of both sides. I think most would agree that the situation he's going into at United, it's not a vintage United side, but he has experience of playing in a not-so-good Real Madrid team, despite everything that he's won. And I think from United's point of view, there might be question marks about whether he's past his peak, whether he's over the hill. I think, realistically, what market are United in at the moment? They can't go out and get stars in their prime. They haven't got Champions League football anymore. So actually, a number 6 across Europe, Casemiro, is he the best that United can get?
He ticks a lot of boxes, for sure. Dave's right. In terms of the calibre of player that Manchester United can get, that's probably the upper echelon of what they're able to realistically bring in. So in terms of his pedigree, on a personal, I have no qualms with that whatsoever. My biggest thing is just how does he fit in terms of that Real Madrid team play on the back foot quite a lot. You know, they're not on the front foot, they're not pressing, they're not... Casemiro himself isn't high up the pitch and pressing all over. And if Erik ten Hag wants that from him solely, I don't think that's going to be the best case for him. So hopefully there's a plan for him and he can make us more viable midfielders.
We've got some more quotes here from Carlo Ancelotti speaking to the media in the press conference today. I've always talked a lot with him in my second stage at Real Madrid, Ancelotti said. I just listened to his desire. I think there is no turning back. This is what he wants, and if the negotiations go well, we just need to wish him the very best. So once again, Carlo Ancelotti being very honest about this. And we're not used to this, it feels like, Harriet. An opposition manager coming out and talking about this move before it's been confirmed anywhere, so it must be quite advanced.
It feels very honest and it feels very final as well. He's saying there's no turning back. That feels like a deal that's in a really late stage, and we're only hearing about it in the last few days, and now it already looks like it's getting to that stage where things are nearly a done deal. It must be delighted for United fans who have spent all window being linked with players, and then that link quickly being thrown out. And we spoke there about all the different types of players they've been linked with. For one to finally come over the line, add a bit of defensive solidity, I think this is really smart. The only question mark I do have over it is it a long-term solution? He is 30 years old. We've mentioned his age. I think he'll have a really good few seasons at Manchester United, but then do they have another player on the books who's sort of ending his career, who's going to be on a really high wage that they're going to have to shift on? That is the long-term question for me, and is it planning into the future? But like you mentioned, for right now, for what they can get in the market and the type of player they're out for, I think is a good solution.
For Manchester United players, how much of a boost do you think this is, Flex? Bringing in a player of that quality. We saw what he's achieved in his career so far. We know what he can do and what he does as part of that Real Madrid team. Is this what the players need for this season? Is this what Erik ten Hag needs?
I would like to say yes for the players, Kyle, because, you know, like we talk about the stuff that he's won. Cristiano Ronaldo's returned back to the club. Look what he's won. Rafael Varane came from Real Madrid. Look what he's won. And look what it's turned out to be. So I enter into that with, again, a little bit of cautious optimism, because we've had players who have achieved big things, who try to bring a winning mentality into that squad, and it hasn't worked. So, yes, you're right. I think that is something that is needed within the culture of the football club. Winners, you know, people who hold people accountable, you know, putting their all into games and not having excuses. And I think that he's the sort of player that can do that. But based off of what's been happening at the football club and players reacting to other players coming in, hasn't always had the catalyst of change that we want. And like I said, going back to when you said Manchester United fans will be really happy with this, yes, in isolation, but there's so much going on in terms of all of a sudden we had situations with the owners and money not being available or available, and now we're seeing players linked left, right and centre and money's being spent. Maybe why wasn't this done at the beginning of the window? But once the window's shut, and if the team plays better, sometimes it can be forgotten about. But like I said, Manchester United fans, I don't think are going to just take this signing and forget about the bigger picture. But it's a good signing.
And often we hear managers like talk about new signings and they're quite cagey. But usually when we hear those type of quotes that we've seen today from Ancelotti, it's when a player has been such a long and great servant for a club that the manager feels open enough to talk about him in such a strong way. So I think that just shows how highly he's regarded at Real Madrid, given what he's given to the club over the last 10 years, what he's won as well at Real Madrid.
Before the Champions League final, I think Ancelotti was actually asked about which players he could see becoming coaches in the future, and he was one of the names he came out. So you speak about some of the more experienced players they brought in, but this feels like a slightly different thing. It feels like they're going to get a really talented player on the pitch, but in the dressing room as well, he's going to have a big influence, and that's exactly what Manchester United need.
Now, age will be mentioned, and age compared to the contract as well, but we can have a look at this now. The most expensive transfers are players aged 30 or over. This would sit third at £59.2 million. That's just behind Miriam Pjanic, Juventus to Barcelona in 2020, and Cristiano Ronaldo, Real Madrid to Juventus in 2018. Both of those eclipsing this one. But it's quite interesting there, Flex, looking at this, because obviously with Cristiano Ronaldo, he's back at Manchester United. United have also had Cavani, another player where age was spoken about. This isn't a long-term thing for them, even though the contract would suggest different. Do you think that's an issue for where Manchester United are at right now?
It depends what comes next, and that's what I mean about a little bit of scepticism towards, or a little bit, not doubt, but a little bit of there's more to this. There's more than just, it's Casemiro, he's won everything at Real Madrid, surely he's going to be absolutely amazing at Manchester United, and Manchester United are fixed. That's not going to happen. Casemiro's not going to change everything by himself. He needs other players around him. He needs players that are better on the ball than him around him, and he needs a unit behind him as well that is functioning. The fact of his age and the price. Look, essentially, what deems whether a player is good enough or not, or worth their value, is how they perform. You know, when Virgil van Dijk signed for Liverpool, it was a massive fee. But he's paid it back already, you know? So essentially, I'm not too fussed about that. It's more about the longevity and what else is going to come. Is there going to be another midfielder? Are we going to get a number 8 kind of midfielder to follow this? Because we were tracking Frenkie de Jong for so long, to then just end up with Casemiro as the marquee midfield signing, that's fine. But is there something to back that up in terms of an alternative midfielder to go hand in hand with that?
I think United fans might see this one slightly differently to a Cavani-type signing, who was... I mean, you could say was past his peak at that point.
Yes.
You feel like Casemiro still has a lot to give.
Agreed. I think that's definitely something. You saw how he played in the final and in, you know, all those Champions League games last year for Real Madrid, still competing at the top level. I definitely don't get those vibes of Cavani, you know, out a lot of time, injured as well, not reliable. Even the season after Cavani had his first season, Manchester United asked him to stay before Ronaldo came. There were still problems with injuries, but that isn't the case with Casemiro. So definitely some positives. But again, I've just got that cautious optimism. I'm still not sure.
Well, if you're just joining us, there has been some big news. Carlo Ancelotti, the Real Madrid head coach, has been speaking to the media this lunchtime. He says, I've spoken with Casemiro. He wants to try a new challenge. We understand his decision. Negotiations are ongoing, but he has decided to leave Real Madrid. Let's get some reaction then from Manchester United side of things. Our senior reporter, Melissa Reddy, is waiting to speak to us. Melissa, good afternoon. Developments on this deal. I mean, it looks like Casemiro will be heading to Manchester United.
Listen, I know we were just watching training, but this is not a draw. Manchester United are getting a defensive midfielder and an elite one at that. Now, Casemiro has been so core to the European success and domestic success that Real Madrid have. He's been part of an exceptional midfield with Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. And obviously, Real are going through this period of evolution, getting younger guys in like Camavinga and Tchouaméni. So for them, this deal, while they don't really want to let the player go, it makes sense. It's getting big wages off the books. It allows them to progress forward. The player, he wants a new challenge. Carlo Ancelotti says it is his desire. He's not tried to talk Casemiro out of it. The players want everything there is at Real Madrid, and he's focused now on what lies ahead for him. Obviously, United don't have his attributes in the squad. We've seen them already this season struggle in terms of aerial prowess, aggression out of possession, stability in the transition, protecting their offensive actions and the back line. He will offer all of that to them.
Melissa, how pleased do you think Erik ten Hag will be to get this over the line?
Extremely so. Midfield has been a priority position for them to remedy. Now, it was in two parts. Frankie de Jong, obviously his primary target, but he's more of a ball progression type of midfielder. He's the one you build with. He'll bring the ball out from the back and, be the hub of your creative play. But United have also needed a defensive player in there, an anchor, somebody who can provide solidity and stability. Somebody actually that de Jong can, form a good partnership with. And Casemiro does fit that type of mold. Now, like we said, United have struggled, not just now under Ten Hag, but historically without that type of player in there. Casemiro brings exceptional pedigree. And think about the big games he's had an influence on, just even in recent times. The fact that Real Madrid are actually sad to let him go, but are respectful enough not to stand in his way and prevent this move, tells you, I think, all you need to know about both what he offers on the pitch, but also his sense of character and personality. United do need more leaders, and, you can say, is this a short-term move? Is this them just reacting? Why haven't they gone for Casemiro or a similar profile at the start of the window? Now we know their strategy has been quite muddled in the market. They are now, scampering around trying to get deals done. But however you try to slice it, they are getting an exceptional player in here. And now it just depends on how he will adapt. We know that negotiations are progressing very well, so we expect the medical to be done soon. And then when he's here, will we see the Casemiro that has been so dominant on the continental stage? Or, will we have another Varane type situation and Cristiano Ronaldo type situation, former teammates of his, where they're here and they come with all this prestige and we don't really see the effect yet on the pitch. But I think in terms of what United needed historically for a while now, and in terms of what he can provide, it's a good match.